Hello and welcome to the On the Slate Movie Podcast. Today we're talking about the Thunderbolts. We are your hosts, Wesley,
Jason,
and Asher.
This is the 36th movie in the MCU, and we're going to talk everything from the characters, the story, and its context in the MCU as a whole. Let's get to it, guys. All right, so this is another movie we all got to see together recently. And
Yes.
just glad that this one was actually good. The last few MCU movies been pretty disappointing.
Been a little questionable, maybe.
a little 4 out of 10 wouldn't watch again.
Yes, the last time we reviewed an MCU movie was a couple months ago with Captain America: Brave New World. So check that episode out.
Yeah.
But this one, we have much better things to say about the movie at hand.
Oh, yeah.
May not be a perfect movie, but definitely a step in the right direction for the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, last time we were all like sad and depressed and didn't have a great outlook. I think we expressed maybe excitement for this, but now we're all full of hope and
Yeah.
light. And
Yeah.
it's amazing what one movie will do to your perception of
right?
a franchise.
I feel like this has done a lot for the MCU as a whole. And like you said, how much they were able to do in one movie. Because like afterwards, I just felt, like you said, like I felt excited. I felt pleased because like the movie itself was good. It wasn't a movie that was just to pass the time to get you to wait for Fantastic Four or Avengers. Like they still did something with this movie as a standalone project. But I also felt in a way refreshed and rejuvenated because I really enjoyed the movie and I think they did a lot of good things well.
yeah, I definitely think so too. I think they brought in a pretty talented team. So Jake Schreier, the director, recently directed the series Beef, which was like a really popular show with Steven Yeun in it. And that got a whole host of nominations at like Emmys and all of that. So
What's that about? Is it
I actually don't know what it's about.
actually about cooking?
I know it's not about cooking, I don't think. I think it's about like they have beef with each other. Like
Oh, that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
beef.
I could be wrong. It could be about cooking. Maybe
About Wendy's.
But regardless, it has a, talented director behind the camera, and it has a really great cast. Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld.
Yes, Seinfeld.
Lewis Pullman, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Hannah John Kamen, Geraldine Viswanathan, Wendell Pierce, among others. Yeah, a good cast. I think that they had great chemistry together, and we'll get into all the performances later. But yeah, they brought in a good team with talent behind it, and it felt like it just was nice to see a story that seemed like this is what they intended on from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of mess behind this. Maybe there was rewrites. I don't know, but it seemed like this actually had like a vision as a movie,
Yeah.
and they executed that.
And they all understood it. Like
So-
they understood what they were trying to do with this piece.
Yes.
And they were able to execute it pretty well.
Yeah.
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 I was really happy to have a movie where, like I think you said, where it's like they weren't going through the motions. It's like, oh, we got to make another entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we got to get this done. And like, because that's what Captain America: Brave New World felt like. It was just like, man, we just got to get this movie out, And you brought it up after we saw it, but it's like I'm pretty sure this movie was made under similar circumstances in the sense that they had to do a lot of major rewrites for the MCU as a whole, like what they're going to do going forward. Because of the whole Kang stuff, they had to change what the Avengers movies were going to be and stuff like that. And just kind of this general like direction change that Marvel has started like this year. And you don't really feel that though. Like it feels like this is made after all those changes, but I looked it up. The movie's been in production since before all that stuff. So I guess it's a wonder it kind of survived.
Yeah. I wonder if
the chopping.
Sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if the spoilers. I wonder if the whole idea of them being the new Avengers was maybe added later on, or if it was part of the original writing anyways.
Either way, yeah. So that's like another thing is like I didn't expect these characters to be super important for the MCU as a whole going in, and they made them important, and it doesn't feel cheap either.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It feels authentic.
It feels authentic.
Way more authentic than I'm just gonna say it, like Captain America: Brave New World. Like
I want you to start new Avengers.
These feel more like Avengers. Not that they have to be Avengers, like in that sense, but these feel more like heroes that I want to follow as opposed to what they're trying to do with Sam Wilson's character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it also helps that this movie is just better. I think that helps out a lot. So before we continue, big spoiler warning for the Thunderbolts. Obviously, we're going to be deep diving it today. But yeah, so
Thunderbolts asterisk.
I think our first impressions that we've given, pretty solid. Just overall a really good movie. And I like the decision, while it is a team up movie, it really feels like there is like a lead character. And I like how they were able to do that. So Yelena Belova is basically the main character here, who is the sister of Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. And she was introduced in movie Black Widow. And in a lot of ways, this movie feels like a sequel to Black Widow, which is an interesting choice, but it works. Black Widow is not like a movie that people were like rushing out there to go be like, we need a sequel for this, But it's maybe not a direct sequel, but it feels like at least a spiritual successor to that film. It does have some overlapping cast, like we mentioned, Yelena, but also Red Guardian, played by David Harbour, who is kind of given the comedic role here. And of course you have Bucky Barnes returning, who doesn't really have he's not like the focal point of this movie necessarily. But he's in it, it makes sense for him to be there. We've already explored his character in many movies and shows in the past. And you have the return of U.S. Agent, who is like the
U.S. Agent John Walker,
the knockoff Captain America.
Probably the best character in the movie. Close to it.
I think
good.
A lot of the characters really shined.
And then you have Ghost, who is from...
I think is the weakest character.
She's from...
She's from Ant-Man 2. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp. And she's played by Hannah John Kamen. Taskmaster, she's in it.
And then she's
in the movie.
She appears for a scene or two.
No, just for one scene.
Well, no, it cuts. It's the same sequence of events, but it's like it cuts a bit.
Yeah.
Does that count as different? We're not going to argue that.
And then there's Robert Reynolds, or Bob, who's played by Lewis Pullman. Great character. And then, of course, Contessa Valentina Allegra De Fontaine.
Because she says the Secretary of Defense in the movie.
That's right.
Okay. Secretary of Defense.
Not Secretary of Defense. Haha. She is played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Or Louis. It's Louis-Dreyfus, not Louis.
It's either Louis, Louis, or
I always
Lou.
thought it was Louise, but there's no
Do you say
E.
Louise?
I
think Louis.
I think Louise is when you have an E at the end.
But I've always...
Either way.
Louise is such a feminine pronunciation, so I just always... It's
Either
probably
way,
wrong.
Elaine from Seinfeld.
So derivative.
This character, I feel like this character is if Elaine stayed in the corporate world but then moved to government work and then just became mean.
Yes. And she appears in, what is it, Falcon and Winter Soldier?
She shows up at the end after John Walker is dismissed by the government or something, and she's like,
yeah,
"Hey, I believe in you, dude."
And she's also in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah.
When did she show up?
Oh,
that's right. She's chewing out our friend
she's
Frodo.
Martin Freeman's boss.
She chews out Frodo.
Bilbo.
Oh, sorry, Bilbo. Yeah.
So, anyway, I have to watch that movie again. I don't remember her exact.
I called Bilbo Frodo.
She's back, and she's kind of like the puppet master pulling all the strings.
Yeah,
you think at least. Yeah, so it's a good cast, and like I mentioned earlier, I think that having Florence Pugh at the center is a great decision. I think she's a great actress, but also I think the character, there's a lot to unpack, and I think they do a good job of that, putting her in the forefront.
Yeah.
yeah, by the way, Florence Pugh, just want to point out, she did actually jump off that building at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's not a CGI shot. Now, well, it is CGI in the sense they cut out like the wires that
The
she was
harness
wearing
and stuff.
But
Yeah.
other than that, like it was.
I mean, it's just like what Tom Cruise does. They cut out all the
Yeah.
wires and stuff that he's wearing.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
Yeah, that was cool, and that opening scene kind of mirrored like Natasha like jumping off that cliff, you know.
Oh,
in a lot of ways.
In Endgame?
Yeah, Avengers Endgame. When she jumps off, of course, Natasha dies because she's like trying to sacrifice herself so they can get the stone.
Mm-hmm.
So it evoked that a little bit. Obviously, like Florence Pugh doesn't die in the first scene of this movie. She has a parachute. But I don't know. It's like it was cool to see that mirroring and like kind of showing like in her brain in a lot of ways, like she views herself in light of her sister, you know. So
Yeah.
anyway.
I really liked, so when the movie started, you heard Yelena like talking as a voiceover saying, I think there's something wrong with me. And then kind of going into like, she's not fulfilled. Like she's just working job after job, all that stuff. And it's like happening as we're seeing the first scene play out. Like she's jumping off the building, parachuting, and then infiltrating the other building. Which the one thing I thought of, like, I don't think voiceovers in and of themselves are wrong, but like when the voiceover started, I thought of that meme where it's like voiceover or narration minus a point, you know? And so it's just like a way to easily get something across. But what was cool about it is that we actually see she was talking to a guard that she tied up. Like, she has no one to talk to, so she's going to take a moment to express her feelings to someone who is literally there and can't get away.
Yeah.
And like we see that she's been talking to him the whole time. So I kind of like the way they tied in this voiceover to the scene that we were about to get to. Like I thought that was a cool merging in terms of editing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely clever writing for sure. Yeah, and there's also a really great like action sequence in that first scene. Mm-hmm. It's like a one take hallway.
Yeah, the top down
beating
shot.
up people. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
I wanna go back and look at the choreography because it was one person versus a lot of people. So I want to
see if anybody was standing there blankly.
Yeah, yeah.
waiting.
But either way, it still looked really good. Did you Jason? You saw it twice. Did you like see anything with the choreography in that scene? I
didn't. I was now I'll be honest, I wasn't trying to like in either viewing trying to see if there was somebody just standing around, but I don't recall there being anybody like waiting to be attacked, you know, like you see in some movies.
Yeah.
And I did check to see, I was like, why aren't they shooting her? But it made sense because they don't want to shoot each other.
Because it was dark.
It was dark, and they have a ton of their comrades in front of them.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, the logic checks out there. I'd have to it's going to be uploaded on YouTube eventually, so maybe I'll go back and rewatch, make sure the guy in the back isn't just like idle stancing. But yeah. I don't think there was many errors.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely a really well directed scene. I think just that whole opening, and also the explosion in the building, that was real. They did that. It's pretty crazy.
It was all in one shot. Like she was there in the front, in the foreground as the building exploded.
I think so.
Her.
There's no like the trivia on IMDb at least says that there's no CG in that scene.
That's cool.
So
that is awesome.
I love that.
That is pretty cool. They actually blew up a floor of a building.
You see, normally Marvel, everything happens on a blue thing, in a blue world.
Yeah, I've seen critics and reviews saying like this is like the first MCU movie in a while that like felt like a movie, you know, like with sets and you know locations instead of just.
Well, the MCU used to be that way.
Yeah, it did.
Iron Man used to Robert Downey Jr. used to be in an actual suit, and I get it. He commented later on and was like, you hear that about a ton of actors who did superhero movies in the past, and they come back and they're like, dude, it's so great now you don't have to wear the awful suit. And I'm like, I'm glad you're comfortable, bro, but the CGI suit ages. Like even in Civil War, a movie I adore, when when Iron Man has his helmet off, it looks so weird.
Yeah,
Because
A little bit
he's not actually wearing a suit there.
Yeah, a little bit of a floating head.
Yeah. And it's like if you just, in the original Iron Man movies, they didn't do that. They had him in an actual like thing with CGI enhancements. But you watch Iron Man 1 today, it looks better than even some of the shots in Endgame, or Infinity War. And in Infinity War, I love, but like his suit, I mean, it's just like after, it's been 6 years since 2019, right? Mm-hmm. Or no, 2018. Was it 18?
19
came
was
out?
Endgame.
Yeah, so it's been 7 years.
Wait.
A 7-year-old movie looks slightly worse
Are you
than
talking about Endgame?
Infinity War.
Oh, Infinity
Like
War.
his suit in Infinity War.
Oh, okay.
Like it's aged and you can tell it's fake, whereas in Iron Man 1, a lot of those, it looks real still.
Yeah. So I think the sentiment here is like, it looks real. It looks like they're wearing costumes. There's actual practical sets and locations that they're shooting at. I mean, obviously there's blue screen in there, but it feels more like an actual like movie.
Yeah.
If that
When they're
makes
driving
sense.
down the highway out in the desert, like I'm pretty sure they're out in a desert. You know what I mean?
I was wondering about that too. It looked really authentic and not stage-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Which-
even if it wasn't, it looked better. So whatever
It
they
looks
did.
good.
So
I think if we're talking about CGI, the one area where I did notice some
Sentry?
some CGI-ness happening was when they were technically fighting against Sentry when Sentry was first introduced in the Watchtower, and like there were a few moments where you could easily tell that it was a CG double, like a CG body double, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there were moments where it felt less like the actual human acting.
I think everything looked good. Like the only thing that to me that looked funny was when like Ghost comes up and he like moves so faster than she could reappear,
Oh,
and he moves back. Like to me, that looked really fake.
see, I'm trying to recall that moment.
They're like, it's like near the end of the fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like some of the punching and stuff, to me that looked really good because I think they're actually just using pulleys and stuff and moving some of the characters.
Well, like when he threw Red Guardian out the window and held him there,
Yeah.
and then brought him back, like you could tell Red
that wasn't-
Guardian
that
was
was
a CG
not-
double for a little bit.
that was not John Harbour.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean yeah.
But to me, that's something that's difficult to do with pulleys unless you're actually going to dangle them outside of a building.
It didn't
good
look that
point.
bad though. Like I don't remember seeing that.
No,
as
I
being,
wasn't.
like,
I don't think it looked bad at all.
I swear. I think overall the film looks pretty good.
I think it looks way better than Captain America. Like the CG in there, than although the Red Hulk looks great. Don't get me wrong, Red Hulk looked great. And anyways,
Yeah. So yeah, just a lot of good vibes around this movie in general. And as far as box office goes, it's doing like okay.
is it making money though? Like,
It is. I mean, for MCU standards, it's probably not like a smash hit, but it's got like 282 worldwide
What did
now.
what did Captain America make by the end? It's like
I have to look
500
it up.
something, 800 something.
No, I didn't get 800. While I look that up, you guys can find something to talk about. But
So I'm just looking at IMDb, and it says on IMDb that Florence Pugh loves heights, and she wanted to be the one to jump off of the Mardeka 118 building in the opening shot. It says she incessantly emailed Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige about not using a stunt double.
Word,
there you go.
dude. Don't you love it when
Practical
actors are
stunts.
passionate?
Practical stunts.
Passionate actors. Pactors.
Pastors.
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 No, that's not what a pastor
Pastors.
is. So, yeah. The story basically follows Yelena, who is like doing all this random work for Allegra Fontaine, De Fontaine, excuse me. And she wants to like be more in the limelight after talking to her dad, after not talking for like a year or so. So there's a little bit of like difficulty in that relationship. And then you have these other characters like U.S. Agent, you have Ghost, Taskmaster, and Yelena. They all end up meeting at this one central location. And Allegra, which you don't realize at first, but you realize after the fight's over, they're like, oh wait, Allegra sent us all here to kill each other, and because we were like loose ends that were a problem, because she was under fire for what exactly was she under fire for?
For the Sentry Project, they got wind that she was testing on people.
Yeah. And those people like knew about it, I guess. The Thunderbolts knew about it, or they weren't called the Thunderbolts at that point, but anyway.
Well, they didn't know about it, but they like the lab that Yelena attacks at the start of the movie is the lab we see at the end, and I guess I'm jumping ahead, but in the Voidverse.
Yeah.
The Voidverse. I don't know. Whatever you want to call the void.
Yeah.
The empty.
The void.
If you actually see the shadow marks of the people he shadowed there in that opening scene.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess like Yelena could have known vaguely, but she clearly wasn't paying attention in that fight scene as the doctor was like rambling.
Yeah.
She was like, blah, 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 blah. And then he shoots himself, which is kind of funny.
On accident, right?
Yeah. She's like on top of him doing the Black Widow thing where they jump on the person and like shock them or whatever. Yeah. And she's like, I needed that face.
Needed that face to do the face scan or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, Allegra views these people as loose ends, so sends them there to kill each other, and then any survivors she'll like torch.
Yeah, there's like giant rockets in there or whatever.
I'm like, part of me is like, well, why didn't you just do that when they all got there?
Yeah.
Initially, but at least we got to see a cool fight scene.
Yeah.
Including Taskmaster getting killed,
executed
by a ghost. I think Ghost ended up shooting her in the face.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and everybody in the theater was like, wait, what? Did that just happen?
Yeah.
I personally was cheering.
She was in the marketing, the trailers. I mean, she wasn't like obviously the biggest feature in the trailers, but we're like, oh yeah, Taskmasters. You just don't, I guess, see a lot of superheroes get killed like that just randomly.
Well, I like the respect they gave the character, because Yelena was telling Ghost and John Walker to give her some respect because they were just like rating her equipment on her.
But it's also
armor.
kind of played for a joke too, though.
Yeah. But it was cool because like it showed that Yelena had a heart, and that she knew that person, because the Taskmaster is from her movie where she was introduced as well. So she knows like that she has like a background, and she was also a human.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Ghost at one point was like, by the way, who was that we killed back there? And she was like, she was just like us. She had a terrible life. You know? So yeah, they obviously weren't like too beat up about it, but they were able to empathize. Like, she was just kind of like we were, just another person just trying to live their life, but they had a terrible past, and they were just kind of in a space where they were just doing what they were told and trying to make the best of whatever they had. But their lives were kind of miserable. So I like to see how the movie really plays with those themes of like mental health, trauma, and like how you can like get through that and become like a better on the other side. Yeah. So
I'm so glad they didn't brush over that, because I think that's what makes this movie like very, very good, is that they really dove into some of these characters and their backstories, and wanted to see them grow. And I think the main two people that they highlighted this for were Bob and Yelena. Like, I think they were the main two that they really kind of dove in terms of like the health of where they're at right now, and trying to get through that, trying to get past their past and all that stuff. Which I really enjoyed, because I think they did a really good job.
For sure. Yeah, and that's kind of what Sentry's whole like thing is. His whole set of powers or whatever is around. I mean, obviously he's like the Superman type where he's indestructible, doesn't have any clear weaknesses, but he's able to like uniquely like make you live nightmares, or I think it was something like that, or like live back like really traumatic things in your life, which seemed, I mean, for me, it seemed a little bit at first like, okay, well, this is kind of like a really oddly specific superpower that makes like, that's convenient for the plot. But at the same time, I think it's also like the scenes were well executed. You know, even if it does seem a little convenient. Yeah, just like had them living back these memories, seemingly being tortured in their past. Like Yelena's past was when she was a child and she had to lead this girl out in the woods for her like Black Widow training, and you know, where she would be killed. Like she had to show like that toughness of like death doesn't scare me. Like that was a formative moment for her in her childhood. You know, and just her living back like the trauma that that moment caused, I think was powerful. And how you could see it affected her. But yeah, I think also a key theme was like the trauma doesn't like to, like it plays a part in who you are, but it's not like, that doesn't necessarily mean like you have to live like the people raised her to be, like, you know, because Red Guardian, who I think is a really important character, most of the character, he's kind of like comic relief and just the dad of the group making, you know, funny jokes and with a Russian accent. But, you know, he does have a few scenes where he says like, Yelena, I think there's more to you than like, than what you're doing in your life. You know, I think before you were a Black Widow, you know, you always wanted to play goalie on your soccer team because you wanted to be the last line of defense and cover for your, you know, when other people make mistakes. You want to be like reliable. Like you had a good heart. Yeah. And then when Red Guardian says that line, when I see you, I don't see your mistakes, you know, like he clearly sees something. He just sees the love that he has for his daughter. Which so I think you know, that's a really good theme in a movie. Just like the idea of forgiveness, knowing like, because that forgiveness comes from just like the love that you have for somebody. Like you can forgive their mistakes, or at least like, you know, you could forget, like forgive and forget, you know, this idea of, just love that permeates past that, which I know sounds really cheesy, but it's really executed. It's really well executed in the film.
And I think it hits even harder, especially for these characters who have done measurably more bad stuff than, like, say, our initial line. Well, actually, maybe not Iron Man, but like, the theme you're talking about, Wesley, works really well because of like where we know these characters are coming from, and honestly, like in the movie, like I wanted them to succeed. Like I wanted them to push past their idea of who they thought they could only be, you know, because of their past and their mistakes. Because honestly, like it even spoke to me, and like I just thought about times in my life where I've made mistakes, and like it can be a rabbit hole where you can allow that to just like affect everything, and like your view of yourself even, and like we see that in the characters. And so I really liked how they just opened that world, because my hope is that like it's gonna like speak to other people who see the movie and realize that, you know, there's more to their own life and what they can do and be.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's really, I think, where the heart of the story is. It's around those two characters, but really Yelena in the lead role, and how Sentry can help her kind of like realize that. So Sentry also, I mean, I think that he is explored. I think he's actually a little underexplored too in the character. Like you only see like one quick scene of like why he's kind of the way he is. You know, it's always like hinted that he's like really dark and broken on the inside, and you do eventually see in that final like third act, you know, it's not like a big CGI fight or anything, but it's like when you're in the different trauma rooms or whatever people are calling them, you could see like, oh, his parents, you know, his dad was like abusive or something. So, I mean, that's kind of hinted at, but I don't think like fully fleshing him out was like the whole point.
Well, I think you get a lot from his dialogue too.
You know,
like you get the things from like Allegra's assistant, where she's like, they hit you with the classic, you give Captain America, you give Steve Rogers a thing, he becomes Captain America. You give this guy a thing, he becomes, we don't know, he might be evil.
Yeah.
I feel like you hear that a lot. Maybe not in the Marvel movies, but like that's like a sentiment people echo.
Because it was explained through other scenes that like he was on, like, he was a drug addict. He was.
Well, he
kind
says
of
it
just having
himself. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think they mention it before he brings it up, but he also brings it up himself. He's like, yeah, actually, when they're when John Walker says, I was also we won the state championship in high school or something, and then Yelena gives her thing, and she's like, anybody else want to give meaningless childhood anecdotes or stories? And he brings up, he was like, meth addicted sign spinner. You know?
Yeah.
So he like brings it up, and through a lot of his dialogue, you can tell he's like he's got problems.
Yeah.
I think it's communicated very well. Like, yeah, we only get one actual like scene talking about specifically what happened, but also they do a pretty good job of explaining why it's not even brought up that much, because he clearly hates it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think by the time we do get to that point where he is in the attic, in the void, I think with how much we have learned about him already, like, we're prepared.
Yeah.
And we're understanding that this is something else that's going to be revealed about his character.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's like I don't know if I agree with the like I think we got exactly enough from Sentry / Bob's character for the movie. I don't think it's really lacking. Would I have enjoyed more? I think I would, but I don't think it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's detracting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And he's going to come back, and, they're probably going to do a little bit more with him, too.
Yeah.
He's on the cast list for Doomsday.
I'm excited for what they're going to do with his character. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, I've seen set photos of him fighting.
No,
Mhm.
no, you haven't.
Yeah.
Wait,
Fighting who?
I don't want to know.
I don't want to spoil
I don't want to know.
But I've seen set photos. You know how you said you didn't really like the suit?
Please don't tell me they bring that suit back.
It's not the same one, but
Uh-oh.
anyways.
Wow, he just laughed like that and say, anyways.
So
Yeah.
probably not good, based off of Jason's reaction.
Well, set photos are never like the Superman. To detract really quickly, the Superman set photos where we saw him in his suit, it does look worse than the actual trailer version, which I think looks really good. So
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not going to really like base anything off of it, right? You can do a lot in post production that make things pop. Anyways,
since we're talking about the suit, when they did reveal Bob in the Sentry suit and like his hair slicked back and blonde, I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous.
and I think that's
Like,
the point. Like,
yeah, I think that
what
is
they're
the
going
point.
for.
I think that is the point. But I'm hoping they don't like just reincarnate that for his character in the future, because I don't feel like that matches his character.
That's the only thing that I have like worry is the Russo brothers have a habit sometimes of ignoring a little bit about what happens to characters in other movies, as far as they're not like butchering anybody, but like with Thor between Ragnarok and not between like Ragnarok and Infinity War and Endgame, I feel like they do kind of butcher Thor. The Russo brothers do for Endgame. I don't really like Fat Thor. I get he looks accurate to the
I don't
comics,
like
but I think they really do a disservice to the character there. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like all the things we went to. I think they wrote him well in Infinity War, and I get he loses and stuff. My point being is like I'd be afraid of the Russo brothers kind of like not really acknowledging everything that happened in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially if they're shooting, they've been in, they probably hadn't seen it yet. I'm sure they got the scripts or whatever, but they've already been writing and shooting this movie way before it was ready to be released. You know what I mean? So I wonder.
That's an interesting thing to bring up.
So I might be a little bit worried. And also, like, I went to look up like the Sentry in the comics, and his suit is kind of like corny there too.
Yeah.
It is just like a bright gold and blue. I like the colors. I'm actually a big fan of gold and blue, but I feel like there should be more blue than there is in the one we see in the show, in the movie. But yeah, I do think they're doing that on purpose. It's like, look at how ridiculous he looks.
Yeah, I think I think that too.
Yeah. So, next character maybe we could talk about is U.S. Agent. Wyatt Russell performs his character.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Let us have your thoughts, buddy.
I'm like a big fan. I think I've talked about it with you guys plenty of times, but I'm a huge John Walker defender. Like, everybody's like, he was so bad in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm like, no, he wasn't.
Bad as in acting or bad as in his character?
Bad as in his character. Like, they're like, he's like an awful person. I don't know why people believe that. In The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's like really nice to Bucky and Sam, and they're like bully him. They're like, you're not Steve Rogers. He's like, I know I'm not Steve Rogers. I'm not trying to be Steve Rogers. He's like, you don't deserve that shield. And it's like, dude, like, he was given the shield by the government. And I get it. It's like, I get why Bucky and Sam would feel a certain way about it. But also, Sam literally in that show, he gives the shield up. So you can't be upset that now someone else has it because you didn't accept it at first.
Yeah.
And then, like, there's this scene where Bucky and Sam are walking. And U.S. agent and his partner roll up. And they're like, let's give you a ride to base. And they're like, no, we hate you. And then they finally, like, get on. And then all they do is, like, yell and not yell, but like just say mean things to John Walker. And John Walker's just sitting there and he's taking it. And then he asks what his partner's name is. And his partner is using a code name of some soldier that Bucky fought with in World War II. And that makes Bucky mad for some reason. And he jumps off the truck and then Sam joins him. It's just so weird. It's like, I don't know what the writers are trying to communicate to me here, but it's not, I'm not feeling very sympathetic toward Bucky and Sam here. And then the whole thing with him killing that guy in the show where he like hits him over the head with the shield a couple of times and kills him. Like, I get it's a bad look and to do something like that in public, but that man wasn't innocent. That man literally had just killed his best friend. And that man is a superpowered terrorist. You know, it's not like this was like some innocent guy who just got caught up in the wrong place, wrong time, and all that stuff. Like, no, he's like a bad guy who just murdered someone and is a superpowered individual who's a part of a known terrorist group. So, yeah, I don't think it's completely unjustified for John Walker to have taken his life in that moment. And then people want to go like, well, Captain America, like, Steve Rogers killed people all the time. Yeah, he did it he shot people, and I get it. It's Nazis. It's cool to, like, it's fine to kill Nazis, I guess. Like, it certainly is. But
do you want to kill Nazis?
I do want to kill. I think it's a little different though, the way that he killed that guy.
I get it. I get like, that it's different, but it's also not unjustified. You know what I mean?
Like, well, it was like a stark difference. Like, this Captain America is different than Steve Rogers. Like, clearly, like this.
Well,
guy,
I'm not saying he's the same as Steve Rogers. And I'm not saying it's different, but I think it's unfair that the whole universe treats him like this pariah because he justifiably retaliated against a villain. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it coming from the same place as Steve Rogers? No. Steve Rogers didn't kill out of revenge necessarily.
Yeah.
But does that really matter when you're stopping an evil person? Semantics, if you ask me. Yeah. in the MCU, I'm not trying to apply real life morals here. But within the context of these shows, I'm like, you guys are really trying to get me to hate this dude, and all you're doing is making me like love him as a character.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had definitely a good arc in that show. Was one of the better characters, and yeah, I think his return here. Yeah, it just feels fitting.
I think he's like a good guy. Like, I know he's like mean to Bob a little bit, but he's like super genuine, surprisingly, a lot of the time. And he's like, everybody's like mean to him and he just like rolls with it. What is it when Elena says to him after they lose? He was like, Jesus. But he doesn't seem like actually offended. He's just like, wow, that's rough.
Oh, after the Sentry fight?
Yeah, where she like says he's like a loser.
Oh, yeah, she just kind of like goes off on everyone and even herself of like why they're messed up and losers.
But she says like she says something really mean to John, and John is just like, Jesus. I went, oh, wow, that's a little rude, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like that.
But it's like he's just rolling with it. He just seems like he gets it, right? So he's not upset about anything.
Yeah.
Or when Bucky calls him out while they're all tied up, you know, he doesn't react. He just kind of looks over at Yelena. He's like, yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool moment because we see like in the Void flashback thing when Bob touches John Walker as they're trying to escape the facility from the beginning, that like John has the rough home life right now, and he's not really a present father or a husband, and he's, sometimes rude to his wife, but it's because he's got his own issues going inside that are just like taking his attention. And then we kind of leave with that scene. And then when Bucky kind of reveals the next part through dialogue that his wife and child aren't even like with him right now, I think John does have a really good response. Like, I think he, as an actor, Wyatt Russell like gave a really good response of how John should respond to Bucky giving him that comment, and then everyone else finding out about that right there, and then him just looking at Yelena like, yeah, that's true, whatever. Like, what about it?
Yeah, like, yeah, I lied that I can get to go home to them. Like,
yeah,
I like, it's like the acknowledgement is like, yeah, I was just coping.
yeah.
That was a very real moment. I just think he doesn't get like the most screen time. Obviously, he's not the main character, but what they do with him, I think, services him a lot. And I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see these characters again. That's the first time I said that since,
me too, man.
Like, I don't know, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can build this life together. something.
We don't want to get
Exactly.
copyright.
So the next character, Ghost. This is a character that I feel like we didn't get to learn enough about. She's like, we never get to see her like touch Sentry at any point. Like, how if you touch Sentry, like you see your past or something. Never got to see that. So I don't know. Maybe they just didn't have time in the movie. Maybe it just didn't work the way they're writing it. Not sure, but it felt weird that she was like oddly left out of that.
Not justifying it, but I guess part of it is like a lot of her origin is explained in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which, if we're going to ignore a lot of the stuff that happens in Black Widow, or just like kind of brush past it, it seems weird that maybe they would expect us to remember what happens in Ant-Man and the Wasp regarding her character.
Because I don't remember at all.
So I'll give you a really brief. She's kind of the villain in that movie, but not really. She was like she says in the movie, in the Thunderbolts, she was experimented on as a kid because of an accident that killed her parents or whatever. That makes it so her body is constantly falling apart. And it was because of one of Hank Pym's things. Just like her dad was a scientist that worked for Hank, or something like that. And then Lawrence Fishburne, who's in that movie, is also like someone who worked with Hank, but now had falling out with him, is the one who's actually trying to take care of her and try to figure out a way. Eventually, at the end of the movie, Janet Van Dyne, or is it Hope Van Dyne? I don't know.
Hope Van Dyne?
Whatever the wife is.
Yeah.
The older one, the one that was stuck in the Quantumverse.
Oh, the older one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because at the end of the movie, they go into the quantum universe and they bring her back. And she is able to find a way to, quote unquote, fix Ghost, which I guess ends up being the suit she's wearing.
Yeah.
That keeps her from falling apart. And that's kind of where the character ends. Although it's implied that she's like in a good place. So, and I get it's been many years since then, both in real life and in the universe. But now she's an assassin, I guess. She was an assassin before in the Ant-Man movies, but it just seemed like they were putting her on a better path because she was really just trying to like not die. But now she doesn't have to die, so I don't know. So it is a little weird. They don't explain really anything about why she is still where she's at. So if there's a weak link in this movie, it's that.
Well, I kind of feel like the movie is treating some of these characters as if the audience doesn't really know them. Almost kind of like a soft reintroduction. So, for example, like maybe Ghost or who else do I feel like? Maybe Yelena. I'm just imagining like some of the people who probably have seen this probably haven't focused a lot on maybe like the Marvel shows where some of these characters come from, or even like the Black Widow movie where Yelena and Alexei come from.
A lot of people don't notice, but Yelena was in the Hawkeye show.
She was, yeah.
So she's been in 2 things now, I guess, at this point, which is the most out of everybody except for Bucky.
So it kind of feels like this movie is understanding that these characters are already existing, so they want to try to stay true to them, but it also feels like they're trying to give them a little bit of a soft reintroduction.
Yeah, because I guess they recognize that everybody who's seen, like most people who've seen this probably haven't seen where they were.
Yeah.
Like the most popular of the movies that any of these people were in, aside from Bucky, was probably Ant-Man 2, actually. 'Cause that came out during the height of things. Generally.
Well, yeah, but like I feel like that's one of the most inconsequential movies.
It is.
Like I don't remember much about it. I saw it once, so I didn't really remember much of Ghost. But she's in this movie, and
She had like a cool mask in the Ant-Man 2. It was like the white. She had like the white suit, white mask with like the 3 dot, the red eye.
It was cool.
I don't know. It looked like a spider's face.
She has a cool power set. Like it is a neat, and they use it pretty well, I think, in the movie. But
And they counter it pretty well in the movie too. Like
sound beats it,
yeah.
which makes sense. Big vibration counters other vibration, I guess. I buy it.
well, I like her power set though. It's pretty cool. She can like disappear and manipulate time or not time, but
she just becomes intangible.
Yeah,
She can phase through stuff.
She phases through things.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So, Taskmaster, like we mentioned, died really quick. Bucky Barnes, we've talked about him already a little bit, but
he's solid.
He's just in it. He's like
he definitely is you guys know who this guy is.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get a whole lot of action in the movie, but
he has one of the best sequences though.
Dude.
When he shows up on the Winter Soldier bike with the Winter Soldier gun.
That is cool. And I like
and the
how
music comes in. Oh my gosh.
I like how it makes him seem like this guy is like a step above. Like he's just like his power level is just higher.
Yeah.
Because he has more experience and he's done this a little longer, and he just comes in and like does what the entire, US military or whatever couldn't do.
That's the same gun he used on Nick Fury, by the way, in the Winter Soldier.
Really?
The one that he shoots that blows up Nick Fury's car when he's in the street. It's the same gun with the disc bombs.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty cool. They were like, "Is that Bucky?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then he ends up like destroying,
blows them up too.
ties them all up. And
John is like, "Oh snap!"
Yeah. It's funny because Lourdes, my wife, she watched it with us for context, but I knew that was going to happen because they released that clip before the movie came out, which I wish maybe
Really? I didn't see that.
It was in the trailers, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't really paying attention.
So
to me, it was a surprise that I knew Bucky was going to show up. I just didn't think it was.
Yeah, it would have been nice if it was going to be it would have been nice to be a surprise to me as well in the movie. But it's funny because Lourdes laughed when he shot their limo to blow up and flip over because she wasn't expecting that. And so she was like, "Oh, snap," So it was fun because like it was this fun moment where, like you said, Wesley, John Walker, and everyone were cheering Bucky on. And then like, oh no, Bucky's not done. Like he's here for y'all too. Yeah. I think, can I say something about Bucky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Please.
I really like what the movie did with Bucky's character. Although he's not like the main character, they've done something with his role in this film that they haven't explored yet, because so far we've seen Bucky kind of have someone to work alongside with. So like Steve Rogers and Captain America. And then, we see him as Winter Soldier. They then help him. And so then he's got people around to follow leadership with. So he's never really been the leader. But what I really like about Thunderbolts is that you can tell Bucky wants to do something more. For example, he's now a congressman. And you can tell like he wants to do something more with himself to help the world. And you can tell he's not enjoying being a congressman because it's super boring. Like he literally looks at the packet or the pamphlet and he's like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't want to read this."
Make sure you read
When he pulls that other senator to the side, he's like, "There's no cameras." He's like, "What? You could have just taken me like a normal person."
Yeah, he's like, "Why you got to do this military style?" It's like this. That's what Bucky knows, you know.
Yeah,
and so, what I really like is that this group of characters that we've been introduced with in Thunderbolts, this gives Bucky a way to, I think, do something he's good at, but do it in a good way. But also, it pushes him to be a leader, and we haven't really seen him be a leader yet, because we've always mainly seen him look to Steve for the next call, the next steps. We've seen him kind of work with Sam Wilson, which they were more of like a duo. I wouldn't say one or the other was a leader between them two, but I think that Bucky has a lot of potential for being this really good leader, and I think that they did the right thing doing that to his character in Thunderbolts.
I wouldn't mind him being the leader of the new Avengers.
Well, so what about him being co-leaders with
like,
the Yelena?
See, that's the thing is like, man, I also like the idea of Yelena being leader too. She's
think
so good.
I think they could work really well as a co-leader
Yeah.
ship type thing for the Avengers.
And honestly, like this is like almost like them kind of making Bucky a Captain America type character without him being Captain America, which I think is actually honestly one of the best solutions ever. Because as I mentioned before, it's like there doesn't have to be another version of the same superhero always.
Yeah.
That we talked about. So this idea where he gets to kind of embody that same sort of role but he's still the winner, whatever Bucky is now. Yeah. The Winter Soldier's an evil assassin.
As long as you don't say the words.
The Summer Saint.
I think
as long as you don't
Summer
say,
Saint.
as long as you don't say what were the magic words? Mission report.
He went to Wakanda. He's good.
Yeah, remember they fixed him.
They de-brainwashed him.
Oh, they de-brainwashed him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is actually a really emotional and beautiful scene where he's like sitting by the campfire and she reads the words off, one of the Wakanda ladies, and he doesn't do anything, but he's really scared because he thinks something might happen. But then she says to him that you're free, and he breaks down and cries.
I hope they.
Why do I just not remember this? What was that from?
That was from the Falcon and Winter Soldier show.
I don't remember much about that.
To be honest, like I didn't watch. I watched that scene though.
You watched the scene. Gotcha.
I hope they give him his White Wolf persona. Ooh, they mentioned it. They name dropped it.
He is the White Wolf.
Yeah,
Yes.
But that's who in the comics. Whenever he's not Captain America, he becomes the White Wolf. I would accept White Wolf Bucky. How would that really work? I don't know. But it's better than being the. I would also accept the Winter Soldier just getting a rebrand.
I just think he's called the Bucky. I don't think he has a name anymore.
Well, Alexi calls him the Winter Soldier.
Oh, really?
The Winter Soldier.
He's like the Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
He's like, what super serum did you get?
But like,
it's like
regular,
Hydra.
I guess.
He's like, oh, you got the Hydra, the fancy stuff.
That's hilarious. Man, Red Guardian is so funny. The last main character, I guess, to go through would be Allegra de Fontaine.
Allegra de Fontaine.
Defense. People are calling her the new Nick Fury. I'm like, I don't think so. Not really.
Nah.
She's like straight up a villain.
Yeah,
like she's mean spirited, or at least she's like definitely interested in her own success and power.
She's like Nick Fury if Nick Fury had zero moral compass.
Yes.
So in that sense, sure.
Nick two eyes.
Nick Fury is like a good guy. Like I don't think anybody would.
Also,
say
Nick Fury's still alive. So.
Yeah, like he's still in the MCU.
Is he just in space now? Like where is he?
After the Marvels, he's probably like, bro, I don't want to come back. Secret Wars.
He's like, He's like, are these the people I have to deal with now?
So, we'll see what happens with Allegra. I think she works pretty well though as a villain. Like I think
her.
She does. I didn't like her, and that was the point.
Yeah. She's got her own unique, like acting, like style, the way she talks, the cadence which she speaks. I think it makes her like, man, I just don't like you.
I know, right?
Why do you talk like that? It just makes me.
I don't know if
you
she's
seem
going to
so
be
confident all the time when I know like what you're saying is like direct manipulation and lies and like it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
But when Yelena goes over to her, it's like, we own you now. I wonder if that means we're really not going to see that much of her again, because they do like, if she steps out of line, they could just get her arrested forever or something, probably.
Yeah. I'm sure she'll try to weasel her way out of it, but
yeah. So I just don't know how much more we're going to see of her in the near future, because I think she's pretty much like lost by the end of the movie. I know she like turns it around to make sure she doesn't go to jail or whatever.
Yeah.
But clearly she's not in a position to fight back.
But she was the one that like she was like pretending to like run away at the end, but like basically got them. So really she did
that because she knew they couldn't do anything to her on camera. And after she's Like you can't publicly do
Yeah,
anything
but she
now
had.
without risking.
But that's why she
things.
told her assistant, like, get the press ready, like, type thing, right? So, like,
But-
she had planned that whole thing out.
Well,
But-
she planned it for Sentry, I think.
Yeah.
But she just changed. She flipped the script. She's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
we gotta move.
We got to say she wanted to save her own skin, so she's like, okay, I'm gonna announce them as the superheroes instead of
Yeah.
this guy who basically turned. Because you could tell that was her plan. She wanted Sentry to be.
And if that fails, like, and somehow the Thunderbolts win, then, like, oh, okay, well, I can still use them, prop them up as these heroes. I don't know. I think
I like how Bob didn't remember. So he's just clapping.
He's clapping for them, and she looks at him. She's like, "What?"
so. Yeah, that was a funny scene. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I think she's got a part to play coming up. Like she was in the Avengers Doomsday cast list. So
I feel like they've done a lot with her character. Like they've slowly woven her into the MCU. That I think it's right to still do something with her character.
yeah,
But I like how Yelena's reaction seemed pretty on character when they were announced the new Avengers because
It's kind of what she wanted.
she wanted to be doing something more fulfilling. You know, she was tired of these one-off assassination jobs or infiltration jobs and stuff. Like she wanted to do something
that benefited people.
yeah, that benefited the people. So it was cool seeing her subtly like accept this, even though it's coming from someone she wants to probably punch in the face right now. She's like, okay, this is being put before me. Let's roll with it, you know?
Yeah.
So I did like that. I did like that.
yeah. I think she's a solid villain and definitely different than Nick Fury. I mean, I guess they're similar and they're like behind the scenes people like calling shots, but other than that, I don't think they're very similar.
Nick
at all.
Fury is out to do what's best for people, and Allegra is out to just do what's best for her. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest difference. They both serve similar. They have similar amounts of power and what they control.
Yeah.
But one person is clearly like, I'm just gonna try to make myself. I don't know. I don't even know what she wants. Power, money, whatever.
I would
But
love to see them in a scene together, though. DeFontaine meets Fury.
that would.
Oh,
be
I hope
fun.
it happens. I don't think Nick
Is
Fury.
Nick even in Doomsday?
Samuel Jackson was not on the cast list, but
Interesting.
we also know that there's going to be more people that weren't on the cast list.
Yeah.
Like Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't on the list, but he's like confirmed he's going to be in it. So, you know,
Benedict's number snatch.
so we're going to see.
Cabbage Patch.
I don't know if he's going to be like a big focal point.
Yeah.
Yeah, after his second movie bombed.
But
Multiverse of Midness.
it had like maybe a couple cool scenes, and that was about it.
It had
So,
some Sam Raimi-isms, but the rest
Sam
of it,
Raimi saved that movie from being awful.
I still
but-
think it's pretty bad.
Wait,
It's not
Sam,
great, though.
Wait.
Sam Raimi directed it.
No.
So there's like some horror scenes that are really cool, but even in context, just like, why'd you do this?
It's just one of those. It's one of the MCU movies that the script was just fractured.
It was actually
They glued back together poorly.
they had character exposition, future tech, where you stand on it and it explains their.
I don't want to talk about it. Oh, anyway, we'll talk about the Thunderbolts.
a good.
So I
movie.
guess kind of like our like the next thing, maybe last thing we could talk about would be like the context of Thunderbolts in the MCU and like where do we think it's going from here? Do we think that this is going to be a vitally important movie to the MCU? Do we think it's just going to be a throwaway? So I think that this was a big win for the MCU. I think
Indeed.
it's a movie that quite literally has the bottom of the barrel of the characters that they're just scrapping, and then they put them together in a movie that, like we mentioned, is pretty solid thematically with its characters and visually also, like we've talked about. But
Yeah.
I think it also, I mean, the after credit scene, we could probably talk about that. I looked this up. This is the longest after credit scene in MCU's history.
Really?
It's like-
it really just feels like part of the movie at this point.
It's like 2.5
Yeah.
minutes or something. So
normalize just making this part of the film.
yeah, it was directed by the Russo brothers, actually, the after credit scene.
Maybe
So-
there is hope.
And it
I
was
liked
filmed.
Lewis Pullman.
It was actually filmed just a couple weeks before the movie was released. It was filmed
So
by.
it was added on.
It was filmed by the Russos on set of Avengers Doomsday.
That's cool,
So
dude. I love that beret for John Walker.
Dude, yes. I'm right there with you. He looks
So-
good in that beret.
yeah, so I don't know if I remember the beret, but I do like the jumpsuit that Red Guardian had. It had all the product placement. Like,
it's given me Johnny Storm in the original Fantastic Four.
he was like,
Yeah.
we put the Z at the end, so it's not a copyright or whatever.
Dude, I laughed so hard at that when they showed the Z. But like no one else laughed as hard as me in the theater, so you just heard my laugh. It was just so funny because like it's right there, but he's still gonna explain it. He's like, and you put the Z at the end. New Avengers, no copyrights.
Yeah.
What did he say about Sam Wilson? He said Sam Wilson is stupid.
Sam Wilson is suing the New Avengers for the name,
Which is odd.
so that I guess implies that Sam Wilson has already reformed the Avengers.
With who?
Can we, like, what?
We don't have any context.
Can we get a Civil War too?
So it kind of seems weird that he would sue him, but we don't know any of the
Yeah, like,
context
why are you gonna-
at all.
Well, also it seems like Bucky had a fault because he's like, I thought you were going to talk to him. He's like, I did. It didn't go well. So he's like already had a falling out with Bucky off screen. It's really weird.
It seems more like,
You would think Sam would be on board with these guys
right.
to some extent.
It seems more like Sam is being pretentious
Petty.
now.
He's like
Well,
the president who's been locked away for being a giant red monster. Well, he said I should make the Avengers. All right,
Well,
guys?
Allegra bought the Avengers Tower, and
Yeah.
like
It's
maybe
not- it's not-
Sam doesn't like that, how they're like using their old building and using their name.
But
It's
he
like,
was he ever there?
No, he wasn't because the Avengers moved to a different facility after. The
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, because you really only see them there in the first Avengers movie.
In the
After that, I don't
second
know.
movie, in the second movie, they're at that compound.
Yeah.
Because Tony Stark moves them out.
Yeah.
But we don't know the whole context. Maybe Bucky has a good reason, but from what our perspective, like after just watching a movie, empathizing with all these characters, we're probably like, yeah, that kind of seems a little mean of Sam to do
Yeah.
that. But maybe Sam has already restarted the Avengers, which was one of those loose plot threads that was completely abandoned. And Brave New World, like they brought that up and we're like, oh, he's reforming the Avengers, and then never brought up again.
Well, Sam says no.
He says no, but then like
Later on, he's like, should I? He's
Yeah.
talking to Bucky.
so yeah, it was just like vague and not brought up. But
Yeah. And
maybe that's what going to be the central conflict at the beginning of Doomsday. I'm guessing is like, how do they all come together here? We're going to get the new Avengers. Are the new Avengers going to be key pieces of this new movie, or are they just going to be kind of on the side? I don't know. There's a lot
I
of
hope
questions.
If this is what our Avengers team is now, I accept it. I buy it.
I can see them operating a similar role as the Guardians of the Galaxy did. Like they had a pretty significant role in Avengers Infinity War, right? Like they were trying to get the Purple Stone, the Reality Stone, right? Is that what it was?
What? An Infinity War?
Or yeah.
Infinity War, they were trying to get the Redstone, the reality.
Oh, it's
Purple
red.
is power.
Red. Sorry, my bad.
purple for power.
the red one, Wesley. What a nerd. You know all the Infinity Stones. I'm just kidding, Jason. I love
I'm
you.
going to do
sorry.
things to you.
That you'll enjoy.
That hopefully won't be me.
Let me finish that sentence for Jason.
Thanks for the positivity. So anyway, I can see them operating a similar type of role. Like this is a superhero team up group, but there's also going to be the Fantastic Four. I think the Fantastic Four is going to be our new like Tony Stark, Captain America. I know we already technically have a Captain America, but I really think the Fantastic Four are going to be like the key pieces of this new Doomsday movie in their fight against the X-Men, which people are saying they're fighting against the X-Men with Doctor Doom pulling the strings. So
I guess we'll see.
we'll see next year.
I'm just excited for Fantastic Four, man. Like, it's funny because when they showed them in the end credit scene, it felt so. The one thing I didn't want to do in the end credit scene was like anticipate what's coming next, just because it's what's coming next. Like I wanted the end credit scene to still have substance, you know. And I think they did that really well. Like I think they established a lot for the new Avengers, like them as a team, as characters, but then also weaving in the next part of the MCU story. And so it was really cool and exciting seeing the Fantastic Four ship on their satellite security camera display. as what was the incoming unknown ship or something. And before they said it, I was like, yeah, this is probably like one. I was like, this is probably going to be the Fantastic Four ship. And then when they showed the 4 on the side of the ship, Jason, you leaned over, you said, it's the Fantastic Four ship. And I didn't say it in the moment, but in my mind, I was like, Jason, I know.
Well, I think I was leaning over before it completely turned or something. But by the time I was saying it, it was already turned there. But I was like, I recognized it instantly. I was like,
because the design of it.
Well, it's in the trailer we saw right before the movie starts too. So
yeah.
It's like, I'm like, hey, that's the Fantastic Four ship. So I was like, Asher, it's the. And I was saying, and it turns to reveal the 4. I'm like, it's the Fantastic Four ship, and you're just like, yeah, buddy, it is.
But man, it was still such a good scene, though. Like, I'm really excited for what they're gonna do with the Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. You know, Michael Giacchino's the one who's doing the score for Fantastic Four.
Oh, wow.
It's already giving me chills, bro.
Yeah, and he did the Batman.
So
Already
it's all going to come together nicely, I think. It should be a... I'm excited about Fantastic Four. We've talked at length about the summer movie season now in our last episode, so there's a lot of great things coming up in that regard. So, yeah, the Thunderbolts. Overall, yeah, I mean... Do we think that... Sorry, what am I asking? I lost my train of thought. This is awkward. Hope everyone's doing well.
We can we haven't talked much about like the visuals or
the music.
The music. I really liked how the movie felt very grounded in an appropriate way for these characters. Mm-hmm. Like it was more grounded, more gritty. And it felt right for these characters. But at the same time, I think they were able to bring in certain fantastical elements, like Jason, like the idea of them going into this void, or the idea of Sentry as the superhero. Like, I think for the most part, it worked with the way they translated it for the movie being more of a gritty, realistic tone, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely did feel like a darker movie. I mean, it wasn't like super dark, but
not like darker, but a little bit more mature than I guess.
Yeah.
Like again, I just keep comparing it to Captain America: Brave New World. Like that movie feels like it was made for, I don't know, people who have never seen a movie in their life or something. I don't know.
If they've never seen a movie in their life, please don't show them that one.
Yeah. It's
just their first movie.
Yes.
It's just a really dumb movie. I don't know. This movie, while it does have its comic booky stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's like Oppenheimer levels of maturity or whatever. It's just a more... It doesn't have that Marvel aftertaste. You know what I mean?
It reflected the characters well.
Yeah.
Like, they looked at the characters, and I think they knew how to visually...
they don't feel like caricatures.
Yeah.
Which is what I think Marvel has recently done a lot to their properties.
Mm.
Is caricaturize them.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it.
One thing I liked about... Okay, so I feel like this can kind of go into what you're saying, Jason. So with the Red Guardian in the trailers... They established him as comic relief. They established him as someone who also could be this father figure in the group. But with the way they edited the trailers, they gave Red Guardian certain comical moments that I felt were more annoying
than they are in the movie.
Because there's a scene when they're tied up and Bucky is like telling them, "You're going to help me now." And Yelena's like, "Wait, what? Us?" And he's like, "Yeah, you got somewhere else to be." In the trailer, right after Bucky says that, Red Guardian laughs for like, I don't know, a couple minutes, like very hysterically. But in the movie, that doesn't actually happen. Mm-hmm. He doesn't laugh after Bucky says that, which I was hoping didn't happen, because in the trailer, it just made Red Guardian seem more annoying than comical. Mm-hmm. But for, I think, most of Red Guardian's moments, his comedy is very on point.
I think his comedy's like, he's not telling jokes, which is the funny thing. He's just he's just doing things funnily.
Yeah.
Like in an entertaining way. And it's like, doesn't this guy just be like awesome to be around?
Yeah. Like he throws the mauve cocktail, and I love how they played it up to be something grandiose, and then the fire
just dissipates,
and then like you hear it in the music, like the trumpets or the instruments just kind of like go down in their pitch, or like as the fire dissipates.
It's just a lot of stuff like that for his character.
Yeah.
Or when he's when he's talking to, I think you already brought it up, where he's like, what super soldier serum did you get? It's just like they're on their way to do something, and he's like, what kind of, or when he's like, how do we feel about co-leading this thing? He's like, when you get tired, I get behind the wheel. He's like, but I don't get tired. He's like, yes, I don't actually want to drive. It's just, it's like, that's a joke, obviously written into the story, but the way he's executing it is like, he's not trying to be funny. He's just like saying what he's thinking.
Yeah.
And it works really well.
And even I really loved when he was in the grocery store and he's looking at the cereal boxes, and the lady's looking too, and he says, oh, so many choices, what to choose. And then he just plainly picks up the Wheaties box. He's like, oh, look at this one. And he's like listing off of the fiber and stuff.
And then he holds it up to his face.
Yeah. And then she takes it, and then like she walks away and then puts it back. I think the humor in this movie was really good. There might have been one or two, we talked about it after the film, but there were one or two moments that felt a bit Marvel-y humor, but other than that, I think the humor was really genuine.
There's only one I remember, and it's when it's a real genuine moment. He like picks up the fruit and John Walker picks up the fruit in the desert and starts sharing it with them. Mm-hmm. And then they say something, and then Yelena is like, or Ghost is like,
they're asking him how he does it.
Yeah.
Like how he just keeps going.
And he just gives a real, like, honest answer. And then she says something, thanks, Dr. Phil, or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, I watched Dr. Phil. Didn't he say that?
Yeah. Ghost says something about it sounding like something on Dr. Phil. Yelena says, yeah, that's right. I watch a lot of Dr. Phil. And he's like, no, you don't. It's been off the air for like 5 years now.
Yeah.
He's like, it must be like a YouTube thing. It is kind of funny, like the after, but it's one of those things where it's like,
They can't just let a nice moment sit there.
Yeah.
Which they do later in the movie, but they do like let nice moments be nice. Mm-hmm. And it's not nearly as bad as the Bucky and Sam conversation from Brave New World.
That was iconic.
That one was,
I hate Marvel.
I audibly in the theater said, I hate Marvel.
Everyone could hear it.
It was just such a bad moment, man. So that is reminiscent of that Marvelism, but it's not nearly as bad. But which is a good thing. We only have one Marvelism. They did a good job. Mm-hmm. They restrained themselves.
Yeah, I would encourage people to, if anyone likes listening to scores from movies, I would encourage
John Marks
listening to the Thunderbolts score. It's really good. I've been listening to it this week. And
when was the last time a Marvel score sounded great to us? Like legitimately. Like maybe the main Avengers theme from 2012 that they reused a bunch, which is fine. I like consistency.
The Thor Ragnarok score is good.
I mostly remember the copyright music that they used, like
the
Metallica. And
yeah. No, the
Metallica?
actual score is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd give it.
I'll buy it. I buy what you're selling.
You don't have to buy it. It's on Spotify, Apple Music.
I'll borrow what you're selling. But yeah, it is really good. VFX. One thing I do want to highlight is when Sentry becomes the Void. I think that looks really good.
Yes.
I brought it up when we left the theater, but the shading or whatever you want to call it, he looks like an actual void in the sky. Mm-hmm. There's a really cool effect where they're shooting at him from a helicopter with a gun and the bullets just kind of disappear.
Oh,
into him.
Really?
They don't like bounce off or like make sparks or nothing. Because when they shoot him earlier, I don't know if it's really making sparks, but you see the bullets kind of bouncing off and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And he also stops bullets as Sentry. with his telekinesis or whatever earlier in the movie, or
Yeah.
like a scene before this.
Yeah.
But when he's shooting him from the helicopter, I imagine it was intentional, but it's like the bullets just disappear into him. I don't know. I thought that was a really neat thing. Like they
Yeah.
weren't bouncing off. They weren't making a lot. It's just gone. And
Yeah.
I love the two little white eyes. They're just really menacing looking.
Great character
I like the way
design.
the void looks. It looks great.
Yeah, great character design.
Hey, like the CGI looked really good too. And maybe it's because it's easy. It's just like, oh, just throw a black PNG up there in the sky.
A black PNG.
Yeah, of that vaguely resembles Lewis Pullman's outline.
That's the most advanced PNG I've ever seen.
I'm just
It's a
saying,
JPEG,
like, because
actually.
it's one color. I imagine it's super easy to make it look real or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no lighting. You know what makes
Well-
CGI looks bad is the shading, right? So
Well, Industrial Light and Magic, I think, worked on Thunderbolts. So I wonder if they did anything with that, and I wonder if they have any content out there that shows how they worked on the design for the Void version of Sentry. Because I don't know if we've ever really seen a character like that, have we? Just someone who's just like, you can still see certain defining like parts of their body, but they literally look like they are a shadow
yeah,
with eyes, and almost like no light from the outside world is interacting with them. Like, it's very interesting the way they were able to execute that.
yeah, I don't know. But also the effect on the city too as it grows.
Yeah,
I think looked really good.
it's almost like it wasn't a shadow. It was almost like it was a part of the material was blackening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really good. I like the way it looked. I like the way the movie looked great in general. It didn't seem super Marvel-y, whatever that means. You know?
There was one scene where Yelena was
Flipping and jumping at the end.
flipping and jumping to get to Bob when he was punching the Void version of himself. There was a moment where like all those things were flying at her and she was jumping and flipping. There was a moment where I was like, okay.
It's when you see her face that she's all rubbery.
Well, no, it was more of her body movement. Like it looked like when she jumped and flipped, it looked like she was on wires because she seemed a bit more suspended in air than what was normal.
When she was running on those little things right before she gets to him too. like
Yeah.
when the floor opens up.
Yeah, that.
That's very wire.
Yeah.
made.
So that kind of took me out of the scene just a little bit, but other than that,
But then
and
the scene draws you right back in.
dude, the scene. Can we talk about how like emotional this movie gets?
Yeah.
Like that scene was really emotional, and that got to me with them like all escaping their bondage, I guess, the physical bondage, and like they got themselves free, but then they went to go save Bob and like just like grab a hold of him because essentially like Void wanted Bob to beat Void senseless, to give in to that rage. And you know, it felt very authentic and genuine and just very deep, like in a good way. And I really liked just the aspect of community that they were able to like expand on.
It was an excellent moment. Something you see very little in these Marvel movies. Just a great moment for the characters to end on.
Yeah. And it was nice not just having like random, you know, generic CGI fight scene that didn't feel personal. You know, it felt really, it felt like they put a lot of thought into it, tried to make something fresh and also meaningful and impactful.
Yeah, I remember my biggest worry one of my bigger worries coming into the movie is like, dude, are they just going to win with the power of friendship? Because there's no way they beat the Sentry.
Yeah.
Well, the solution to that was Sentry was never a villain, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yes, they fight against him briefly, but it's not really because Sentry is evil or trying to attack people. And I like how they don't defeat the Void. You know, it's not the Thunderbolts versus Bob Sentry / the Void. It's really like Bob versus himself.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a really clever way to like solve this particular issue. So like, yes, they did indeed win with the power of friendship, but it wasn't in the way I thought it would be, which would be terrible. It was in a good way. a way that was really endearing and almost made me kind of tear up.
Yeah. It's
So
okay.
he was sobbing in the movie theater.
I was not. And even if I was, I would own it.
I teared up. There was another scene where I teared up. Oh, I teared up when Yelena sat down with Bob in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
That's
some good stuff.
Because then,
When are we getting? We don't get good stuff in Marvel movies.
I mean, I think we've gotten some other good things throughout the movies. Maybe not like as consistently, but I think we've had some good moments. Don't ask me to list them all, but
I mean, I'm just trying to think. I mean, like,
Oh, you know good moments? Name all of them.
I think the moment when Thor travels back in time to see his mom before she dies, I think that was a sweet moment.
I think that is a good moment.
Yeah,
I think it's dragged through the mud by the rest of his character arc in that movie, though.
I get you.
Like, there's no strings attached here. There's no caveats. There's no weird, like, you're having to justify certain things. It's just a genuine moment in a Marvel movie.
Captain America has good moments,
He does.
like the first Avenger movie.
He does have a lot of good moments in that movie. So
There's-
you're right. There
yeah.
are moments.
Yeah,
But that movie also came out 14 years ago.
yeah. But yeah, really good. I'm just really happy with how well they dove into these characters and kind of going back to, just exploring the past of these characters and writing them in a way to rise above that. Because I feel with how superhero-y this movie can be, like, obviously we don't have people in real life phasing through objects or with super soldier serum like that, or with like a void flying around. I think there's things in this movie that people can very easily relate to, like, say with Yelena, when she went through all of the rooms when she was in the void, she went to the bathroom where her past self was just like passed out in the bathroom floor, drunk. And like, that was a very interesting scene where she was fighting herself from herself putting the bottle and making current Yelena drunk, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, just things like that, I think people can really relate to, like drowning yourself in alcohol, or just like the other things Yelena talked about, how she just spends her day. She wakes up, she does work, she's on her phone, same thing over and over again. When she was talking to Alexi, I think they were able to hit on things where people could really relate to in real life, and hopefully be encouraged, of like, there's more to what you can do and more to your life.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's good, man. Well, I think that is a pretty good discussion on the Thunderbolts.
Asterisk.
We got to give it a rating.
What are we gonna rate this thing?
Well, you should go first, Wesley.
Me?
Yeah.
Man, I just enjoyed listening to y'all talk today.
Nice.
You guys gave a lot of good advice and opinions on the movie. I will say that I will probably give it 7.5.
Hater. No, that's actually a good.
That's a
I
pretty
like the
solid
rating.
score.
7.5 out of 10. That's what I'm feeling. I mean, I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it's definitely one of the better MCU movies I've seen in a while. I ranked it in my list of MCU movies, and it was like number 13 or 14 or something like that.
Nice.
So it's pretty close to the top 10.
It has a 7.6 on IMDb
Yeah.
for user reviews.
Look at Wesley toeing the line.
Toe in the line.
Yeah.
That's me, I guess. You know me. What about you, Jason? What's your number?
It's not much higher. It's an 8.
8? Okay.
8 out of 10. I think it's a almost great movie. Probably I would call it a great movie. It does have its problems. I think that, like Ghost, I feel like is left out. I get Bucky has been in a million movies already, so you don't really need too much from him, but I think we could have gotten a little more. Those are probably like my only real complaints if I have any.
Yeah.
Are they complaints? Not really. I understand. I feel like maybe they didn't want to ruin this movie, and by doing too much might have gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
So they played it safe and they just didn't, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also why it's only like an 8 out of 10 for me. I think, I don't know. Is it dangerous? Is it bad that I'm just really excited now after one movie?
No, I'm kind of the same with you, man. Like, this has brought much.
It's like for 5 years they've just done nothing but disappoint me, but they give me one really good movie that I enjoy a lot, and it's like I'm gonna forgive all of that.
Yeah.
But that's what this movie's about.
Yeah, I think they should look at the feedback though and see. Like, I think they should kind of reflect on what they did with this movie, realize what they did right, and really take in the feedback they've gotten from fans and whatnot, to take that and then run with it in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause- Yeah.
Yeah. So 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Great.
I feel like there's a couple words I could do, but
Thundering out of 10.
thundering out of 10.
Bolting out of 10.
Asterisks out of 10.
I think I might just go with, I don't think I've used this word yet. I think I might just go with refreshing out of 10, because
You have not.
I have not.
Mm-mm.
Okay, cool. So I'll just roll with that. Refreshing out of 10, because
It's a good number.
I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, but, you know, within the MCU, we saw Captain America Brave New World. It was not that great. And then some other movies before that just have not been like that great. And so this one felt very true to itself. Like, they kept the integrity of the actual story. And that was refreshing. And it just gave me like, it made just overall from a movie experience, like, it was very enjoyable. And I looked at this movie, and though there could be some things that, like, I do have a few constructive criticisms about it, but this is one of those movies that made me enjoy movies. Like, just the actual experience you can get from it, and the experience you can share with others. And even from an art standpoint too, like the score, the visuals, the sound design, choreography, character design, like all of that just coming together to make something that felt, for the most part, very cohesive. Like, it seemed like everyone knew what kind of movie they were trying to make. And even in the marketing material, like the way they designed posters and everything, like, it, for the most part, it seemed like they knew their mission and the vision for this whole project as the Thunderbolts. And so it was just refreshing. And, I was very encouraged just as a person from the story and just as a fan of Marvel. So refreshing out of 10.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on the thing that we kind of talked about in the last couple of Marvel episodes we did. And it's an idea that I think you really spearheaded, Wesley, where it's like, who are we going to care about in Doomsday? Like, who are these characters that are going to be the kind of the focal points? And I do agree with you. I think Fantastic Four is going to be a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I remember thinking, I'm like, well, the Thunderbolts, I'm not going to care about those guys. They're all a bunch of,
Ragamuffins.
random bottom of the barrel, like you said, characters. But after this movie, I'm like, man, well, now I kind of care.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
them. I love them.
Exactly.
Now I kind of care. Now I'm excited to see them. Like, these, I wouldn't mind if they are sharing kind of that center stage with the Fantastic Four on some capacity in these big team up movies.
Like, you can take Sam Wilson as
He can
supposedly Captain America, but like,
you can keep Sam Wilson the same level of importance as he's always been.
honestly, if they write, like, I feel like they should figure out how to, I don't know, save his character, because he's in a really weird spot right now. But like, with the people we have to root for, like with the people we've been given to root for so far, Fantastic Four isn't out yet. So it's like Thunderbolts, you have Captain America, the new Sam Wilson version. Bro, give me the Thunderbolts, man. Like, I love these people.
Give me the Thunderbolts.
I love these people.
I need Alexi and Peter Parker to interact.
Yeah, I definitely think this movie is a big win for the MCU, and yeah, I'm excited to see Fantastic Four. I'm excited to see Doomsday. You know, and even on the DC side of things are cooking.
This is a good year for movies.
Updates are happening on the DCU end, so Batman 2 is happening. It is definitely happening. They're starting filming this year.
Let's go.
So, anyway, and also apparently there's an announcement on Wonder Woman coming soon. So,
like a new version.
No Flash movie.
Supergirl has finished filming.
Is that going to be a movie or
The
a show?
Lanterns? I think is currently
Lanterns the show.
Currently in production. So
I think it's filming too.
And there's a Clayface movie coming out.
A Clayface movie?
It's like a horror movie, and it is going to be part of the DCU. So
Me and my friend has like
comes out 2026.
How are you going to do Clayface before Batman? I was like, learn to have fun.
They write the script before they write the Batman script. That's how that happens. Anyway, so well, yeah, in our future podcasts or news updates, we'll keep you guys updated on those. But I think that's a wrap for the episode today. How are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good.
Pretty good.
Feeling like I could talk another hour about Thunderbolts.
I know.
I just enjoyed it, man.
It is a good movie
it,
for sure.
but feeling good.
Watch Thunderbolts. Please communicate. Remember, Disney doesn't read reviews. They read money in their pockets.
And this one has actually made less money than Captain America Brave New World.
Are you serious?
Let that be injustice. Shake your fist at, I don't know, whatever.
But Thunderbolts had a smaller budget, so technically it's probably making more money.
Yeah. So hopefully it pulls through. I picked it number 3 on my top 10 of the summer. I don't think it's going to get to number 3.
It might not even be top 10.
It'll be a top 10, but it won't be a top 3. Unless all the other movies are just terrible.
We'll see. I think Final Destination's good. And this is not the...
Well, we'll get to that in our next new episodes, but for now...
This is not the episode for that.
You can find us in the show notes or just click on our profile. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever.
Rate.
We appreciate it.
We're on a new social media platform now, thanks to Jason.
We're on TikTok.
Yeah,
So-
at On the Slate.
Check us out on TikTok.
So I got to add that to our show notes now.
So, great. Well, this has been the On the Slate Movie Podcast. I'm Wesley.
Jason.
And Asher.
And we hope you have a great upcoming few weeks. And God bless. Goodbye.